Hey, what's going on everyone? Vega here for SerpentX Tech, and in this video we'll be talking about my NerdQAxe that just stopped working randomly. I think we had a power outage or some type of brownout or something. The Bitaxes and all the smaller devices that are only 40 watts or less, 25 watts, kicked right back on, but the NerdQAxe did not. And when I got home, you could see exactly what I'm experiencing. No fans, no LED display, nothing. And I just wanted to document that journey, right? So I already put out a short about the NerdQAxe dying on me, and warned that, you know, when these devices do die, we shouldn't just go blaming manufacturers or vendors or sellers of these devices, but instead take ownership. You know, especially if we're overclocking and pushing these devices beyond their limits, that's on us, not them. So first things first, looking at the device, we have a fuse right here. And then we got a little chip to the right of it that looks a little bit discolored on the top, right to the right of the fuse. Do you see that? Now, those are my top two culprits because I don't see anything else on this board. I do see something just now looking at it, right there. If we look very carefully at it, it says 5 volt EN NC. That top guy right there looks a little bit yellow, and I've seen that before on some other people's devices. But first, let's just check the fuse. Let's do the basics and see what exactly is going on. So we're going to use ground. We do have the device powered on right now. This is the power supply that we're using. And it is powered on, as you can see from the blue light. I even tested with my Meanwell power supply and a different power supply. Still nothing. And we're going to get ground from the actual barrel plug jacket, right? Because that jacket that goes around the barrel plug is the actual ground. And then test and probe the fuse. So let me see if I can get you a reading while showing you on camera. Alright, so I'm doing the best that I can. But again, we're touching the black to the barrel plug jacket, and then the red to the fuse, and the bottom part of the fuse. I'll show you here in a second. But as we do that, you can see we're getting no voltage. But if I touch the top of the fuse with the red, you can see we're getting 12.54 volts. So the power is not going down through this fuse. You can find fuses for cheap on DigiKey, but you also can find them on Amazon. I just don't trust Amazon to sell you guys the best quality products. So I would be cautious about that. I'll link to a couple options down in the description. But yeah, we're not getting any voltage past that fuse. And again, where I was testing with the red was up at the bottom, right here. At the bottom section, let me see if I can point to it with my tweezers. So I was testing right here at the bottom part of this jacket of the fuse. And we were seeing 12 volt at the top section of the fuse. So the power is not getting through from this power, through its integrated circuit, down through this fuse into the rest of the components in order to power this thing on. So that's an easy fix to replace the fuse, which we're going to do here in just a second. To pop out the fuse, obviously you want to power down your device. So let's go ahead and do that now. There we go. We are powered down. And I have my iFixit kit. Now these tweezers and these tweezers, they just don't have enough surface area to grip. So I like these guys a little bit better. Right, and so what we're going to do is we're going to grab the fuse right in the middle here and gently pry outwards. Let me see if I can do it while holding the camera. Yeah, I need to hold the device while I'm pulling back. Let me see if I can set you down again. And here we are, this tiny guy right here. Let me set that down. This tiny guy, if we flip it over, it should say 8 amps. A lot of people replace these with 10 amps, but they're water cooling or overclocking, and it's very hard to see, but it does say 8 amps on it. If I could get it to focus, yeah, right there, 8 amps. So we're going to replace the fuse, simple fix. Whether or not this is becoming a problem child and that is becoming a problem child, we'll have to look into it a little bit further. But let's see if replacing the fuse doesn't fix our issue. But this is something that I would definitely monitor. I wouldn't just replace the fuse and call it a day, because there's a reason why the fuse blew. And so we want to test out a number of different things. For example, with our multimeter, we can test continuity and ohms and go through and see if there's any shorts somewhere. Again, the problem child that I'm concerned about is this guy right here and that guy right there. I can't see the name of that chip. Maybe you guys can pause the screen and get the name for me. It looks like an ILLE 4G NJH. You let me know what chip that is. But those two guys I'm going to keep an eye on. I'm going to do some testing off camera, you know, continuity, ohms, and see what we're getting, and if anything else looks jacked up. It doesn't really look like it. I'm looking at all these chips here, moving wires out of the way. Nothing seems burnt, nothing seems a little bit toasty. And what we can also do, if you get a thermal camera, is when you do put the fuse on and you have a thermal device, particularly a flare adapter that you can attach to your phone or a flare camera, we're going to see if anything on this guy is getting a little bit too hot for comfort, and find out and look online for its rated speeds. Additionally, we could be looking at the back side here, making sure, besides some dust that needs to be cleaned up, making sure none of these SMDs are cooked. And there's some diagrams online to help you out and identify, you know, problem child or issues with some of the SMDs or components. But for now, we're just going to do the fuse, and let's see what exactly happens and if this thing actually powers on. Before we put the new fuse in, I wanted to show one more thing. What I'm doing is I'm taking my black probe or ground and I'm holding it on the same grounding point or power jacket, and I'm taking my red and I'm testing everything. So I did test this guy here that I suspected to be one of the problems right there, and we're getting continuity. How am I testing that? Well, I'm on this section right here, as you can see from my multimeter, and I am going to try to get a shot of that for you, but also when I check without the fuse being in there and I touch the bottom of the fuse section, wire is kind of pushing me away, but when I touch the bottom section, as long as it's on OL and not doing anything crazy, we're good, which is exactly what I got. But I'm still hesitant because, again, the fuse blew for a reason. Maybe it was a significant power outage in my household, a brownout, but I'm thinking maybe one of these power stages, these three guys right down here, might have a short in it. But let me show you an example of what I'm testing, and listen for the beep coming from the multimeter. So testing some of the resistors and components. Now testing the back of the fuse. Nothing, which is good. Nothing, which is good. So you just want to go around, test your components and make sure that there's no shorts. Now we could put a new fuse in. The old fuse is sitting right there. Little tiny guy, very easily get lost, and we're going to put it right back into that slot. Alright, new fuse is in, as you can see. Now we need to power it on. I got the barrel plug connector. I always plug from the barrel first and then I plug in the power supply, but you do you. Oh, fan spun for a split second. Oh, it's trying. Something else is not right. So I gotta do some further troubleshooting and see what's going on. I really think it's one of those power stages. Let me switch over to voltage and try to see what we can get. Yeah, same thing. So it might actually be the fuse housing, but the fuse housing is shorting because of something. So we're getting 12.54 volts up top, but down at the bottom we're not getting anything. We're measuring from that same point. And again, that's a little bit concerning, but I've seen that on other devices as well. Something in here is not bueno. So gonna have to keep chipping away at it, and I'll keep you guys updated, but at least I showed you a few steps on what to do to double check or how to check, you know, continuity. You could also measure in ohms, measure voltage, so on and so forth. Again, how I'm measuring voltage is the ground strap or the barrel plug at the top here, and then I'm measuring the top of the fuse. See, 12.54, and then nothing at the bottom here. So voltage isn't getting where it's supposed to, but that's the most I've seen it move since this situation happened. So deeper dive and probably more components to be replaced. I'm not seeing anything burning. I'm not smelling anything burning. So yeah, I think that guy, the housing itself might be bad, but it might be bad because there's something else going on. But that's going to do it for at least this video. If I have any other updates, I will bring it to you in a different video. We did our basic checks. Now we need to do a little bit more advanced checks. And I'm just going to keep troubleshooting it. We do have some jumper connections that we can use right there. But one of these chips are not like the others. And it's just a matter of figuring it out. So my apologies that we didn't get the NerdQAxe working in this video. We'll have to bust out the old soldering iron, flux, cleaning pads, and so on. But I'll continue probing away. I'm not overly adequate at telling you each of the components, power stages, what type they are, what manufacturer they are, you know, what semiconductor, but I know enough to get into trouble. So maybe we'll be able to get it fixed, maybe we won't. But just stay tuned to the channel for updates. Other than that, do me a favor on the way out, hit that like button, make sure to consider getting subscribed, hit the notification bell, and yeah, stay up to date on what's going on, what's popping. Also post on X and other social medias, but a fuse did not solve the issue, and our problem could be the fuse housing itself, or one of these power stages down here could be shorted in some form or fashion. Take care, y'all. Real quick, just noticed something right when I turned off the camera. So just like I was getting my ground up here and then putting the red probe on that back plate there, right? Because that's on the back side of this fuse, there's a contact, right? You could take this off, but it's really hard to do. Like the plastic just crumbles away and you have to heat it from the back. But if I touched the back here, there was nothing. If I touch back here, nothing. But watch what happens when I touch the side fingers. Nothing happens up top, but something happens in the bottom, and it's not supposed to beep. If it beeps, it's no bueno, at least for that fuse. Touching the fingers up top, nothing. Touch the fingers down below. Yep. Something's not right. Oh well, same thing. Just wanted to show you that real quick. Take care.